Marcelo Martinez, and
So loud.
okay.
There you go. Take one step forward.
Okay. Should I look into you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay. What is your name and where are you from?
My name is Marcelo Martinez, and I'm from Germany. Well, originally from Bolivia. My parents immigrated to Germany, but I lived there my whole life. And
And what brings you here today as the program?
well, they're building statues outside of our assembly hall at Pinewood Prep, and so we kind of want to explain everyone that is going to be put up outside, and yeah, that's why I'm here today.
Okay. All right. Is it a good experience?
Yeah, it's definitely a good experience because people are so different here. It's mostly because people in Germany, I mean, the history of Germany, the history of Europe is completely different than the history of the United States. The United States they are a very young country. They have 300 years of history, that's everything. And it's interesting to see the development that the American people did in these 300 years compared to Europe. So it's definitely interesting here, yeah, it is.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Name too.
Yeah.
Okay, what is your name and where are you from?
My name is Martin Rosberg, and I'm from southern Sweden, in the city of Malmö, which is the third largest city of Sweden.
And how's your experience here in the United States?
I think my experience has been very good, actually, because you mature enough during this exchange year and get to see parts of America that you don't see as a tourist. And I've been here twice before, so this is completely different.
And can you speak a little bit towards what you've been doing here? How long have you been here now?
I came the 10th of August. I flew from Copenhagen to Washington, D.C., and then down to Charleston Airport. And what I've been doing here pretty much, I went to school. I started school the very same week as I came, so it was like straight into my new life. And yeah, I've been going to school, doing some activities around it, and just trying to learn new stuff and make new friends and contacts, and I hope it's going to last for life.
Great, great. Okay, and is there one last thing that you would like to say about your experience here, as opposed to, where you came from?
I think everyone that has the chance to go on one of these trips should do it, because it will give you so much in return. You take a year of your life, but you will mature so much from it, you will learn so much from it, and you will have a great time.
Okay, that's great. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, what is your name and where are you from?
My name is Mubin Deeb, and I come from Syria. And, I'm here on exchange program. I came on August 2nd. I'm staying here until June. It has been fun yet.
I was going to ask you, what is maybe one or two of the experiences that you've had since you've been here enjoyable? Are you having a good time?
Well, first of all, I really came here I just wanted to be an independent for a little bit, because back in my country you don't have the sense of being independent as wide as here. And secondly, I like to be in a Western country, and I'm really enjoying it here, and I'm having a lot of experiences. Also, I've been to Chicago. I stayed there for 1 month before, so I mean, I can now make a lot of difference between the country itself and my country, and between also cities here and country, or different parts. Yeah, it's quite different. It has its diversity. It has a lot of diversity.
What is the one either person, individual, or thing that you've enjoyed since you've been here?
I'm really enjoying a lot of things. I'm enjoying the school here. I also love my host family. They are so nice people. Everything is going on pretty good, so
yeah,
I love it, everything.
So it's quite a culture shock. Quite a different
Well,
diverse
it
culture?
was quite different, but it wasn't a shock. I mean, I'm doing pretty all right.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's great. When you go back to your home, what is one thing that you will take with you to tell all your friends and family back at your home?
well, I will tell them how nice people were here and how they hosted me, and the school is great. And I will tell them about actually here like in school you encourage more activities after school like sport or music, and all those things are really great. And I would like to share them back with my people in Syria, with my friends.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, what is your name and where are you from?
My name is Ahmed Imad Hassan, and I'm from Iraq, and I'm an exchange student for 1 year in Pinewood Prep.
How have you been doing here? What are some of the enjoyable things, or what is your experiences that you've had here that you'll remember?
It's been a lot of time. I mean, we had a lot of fun. I got to know a lot of people here that I basically didn't know. I got to see a lot of exchange students from other countries, and of course I met a lot of Americans and I made a lot of friends. It's really, really cool and a really cool time. And I got to know a lot of my teachers, and I get to have extra time with them, talk to them about stuff in our country and all that stuff. And you know, now the war and all the elections are going on, so we're basically discussing all that stuff together. So it's been a lot of good time.
You must get a lot of questions posed
Yeah.
to you from Americans.
Exactly.
What is one question that sticks out in your mind that you always are asked a lot?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions, the funny ones and the really cool ones. Actually, from the funny questions that I get asked, they asked me if we ride camels or something in Iraq, and I just laughed about it and I told them no. And there's some questions they ask is about what do we feel about the Americans, and you know, some Iraqis are like really small amount of Iraqis. They think that Americans are occupying us and stuff, but all that is wrong. All they're trying to do is build our country. And I think every Iraqi outside should support the country and try to study and make good grades like me here to build the country and make it better with the Americans.
So when you go back to Iraq, what is one of the things that you're going to take with you to tell, experiences or whatever that you'll tell your family and friends and people back in Iraq?
Actually, I'll tell every Iraqi that the American government is different from the American people. And the American people, there's no difference between any people in the world, no matter where they live, in the Western Hemisphere or the Eastern Hemisphere. And I think it's really a good choice or chance that gave it to me to go visit the United States in such a period of time that we're having the elections right now. So I just tell them that we're all one people, no matter what, and we don't care about borders.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you.
Okay, what is your name and where you're from?
Okay, Dale Hitchcock from Somerville, South Carolina.
And you're in the international club here?
Yes.
At the school? What is being in the international club here at the school at Pinewood? What does it mean to you?
I see it as a good way to gain an understanding of international cultures, and especially now as the world's becoming more globalized and we have to deal with foreign cultures a lot.
And why is being in the international club here, and what does it do? What does the club do here at the school?
Every year the school hosts about 7 exchange students on average, and the International Club always finds a buddy for the exchange student when they come, and so when they get off the plane, someone will be there for them, and then if they need anything when they first get here, there's someone for them to talk to. And we host or sponsor a child from, I believe, Guatemala, and send him things every year, and we sponsor book drives for Costa Rica. We get old textbooks and send them to Foreign Nation.
Okay. What is one of the? Give me an example of a good experience or an experience you've had being in an international club here with either exchange students or interaction.
Well, my best experience in the international club is last year. My family actually hosted an exchange student, and so I got to do everything with him. He actually ended up being my best friend. So. Yeah. I learned a lot about, he was from Venezuela, I learned a lot about the Venezuelan and South American cultures and helped my Spanish a little bit.
So you want to speak some Spanish for us? ¿Cómo se llama usted en español?
Me llamo Diego.
Sí, me llamo Tormenta.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, I guess that's about it. That's good.
Okay.
Moody is from Iraq. He's from Iraq, and all of our exchange students are juniors this year. Mobeen is from Syria, and then we have Marcelo from Germany. There's Martin from Sweden.
Okay.
And we have several others, but they're not.
And what's real interesting to me is that we have 2 new countries to add the flags. The flags represent those countries where an exchange student has been on Pinewood campus for a year. In Syria and Iraq are 2 new countries that we look forward to raising your flag before you leave. All right, let's see. Is there anything? You want to tell us a little bit about what y'all have been doing regarding the next phase and the world leaders?
Sure. We were presented with the idea that we were picking confident, influential leaders from around the world to just add to the Freedom Hall project from America. And so we picked several leaders that we thought were just outstanding, and we decided on about 20, but we tried to narrow it down to about 10 leaders.
Great. And, all right. Is there anything else?
We're glad to be here.
Okay, great. Y'all, would you like to say anything at this time about your year at Pinewood?
Just happy that I'm here with you guys. It's been a pretty cool time in Pinewood, and it's cool.
Great.
I like Pinewood. I like my host family. I like everybody here. Thank you very much.
It's interesting being in America. It's amazing being in a different country, new culture, new society, new people.
What part of Germany are you from?
West Germany, Düsseldorf.
Great.
I'm extremely happy that I've gotten the opportunity to go here. I'm just flattered that I could come and stay with all the nice people here, learn the culture, be here as feel like you're living here instead of coming as a tourist. It's a big difference.
We had your neighbor last year, Klaus from Copenhagen, live with us, and he's coming back. And Pam, when is it? March? So, but now, as I recall, he said there's quite a bit of rivalry between Swedes and Danes.
I wouldn't like to see it as a rivalry. There's probably not in the south. It's pretty close. I could take the car to Copenhagen, right? If I could drive. It would take me 30 minutes.
Well, it's wonderful for Pinewood to be able to experience y'all's year here, and so we're thankful for you being with us. Okay, other special people, Sarah, Jeffers, and Aubrey, would all y'all stand up? See, they used to be here almost every day, and sometimes they'd be here all night. And sometimes they'd say, we're doing research, we'll see you a little later. And that's when the panic button would set off. They're the 2 artists who did the mural. Sarah was the artist, and midway through the project, she enlisted Aubrey to assist her. And they would be on these platforms painting. And students would be in here talking to them about what is this going to be, and how do you do this? And I remember thinking they're the most patient people in the world, because they had a job to do and a deadline that was quickly approaching with a lot of work left to be done. As a matter of fact, they finished painting about 12 minutes before the dedication.
After the dedication.
So anyhow, they just did a spectacular job. As a result, one of the things we wanted to do was see how we could assist them in future projects. I was here to speak to the Yacht Club last night at their founders' dinner. And Bernie, we don't have a format, which I thought would be appealing to you. But we do have a chair.
Okay.
And Walt, I don't want to spend too much time talking. Right?
Hi, Bernie Dunlap.
Hi.
Hey, who are you?
Give him my letter.
Okay, I know two people.
Of course, you can visit with the Walford people. But you call Mary Margaret Fitzhenry, who's going to introduce you.
Hey, Mary Margaret, hey.
Good morning, everybody. I'm really happy to be here today to introduce Dr. Dunlap. I was really excited to come here actually and see what has been done at Pinewood as well. I don't really know where to start for a proper introduction of Dr. Dunlap, but I met him while I was at Wofford, and I took a presidential seminar class with him, and went on interim with him to Italy and the Netherlands and Belgium. And I was actually only supposed to go on one trip with for interim, which is like Pinewood's mini Nestor here. But because Dr. Dunlap was taking the trip, I convinced my parents that I needed one more trip, and that it would be an experience of a lifetime. And anyways, when we were away in Italy and the Netherlands, we would always wait in the lobby for Dr. Dunlap because all of us wanted to sit with him and hear his stories because he's a wonderful storyteller, and there is not a subject that he doesn't have vast knowledge on. And so we would all just wait for him and sit on the edges of our chairs and wait to hear his tales. It'd probably be easier for me to tell y'all what Dr. Dunlap has not done in his lifetime, but just to give y'all an idea, he graduated summa cum laude from Sewanee. He attended Oxford University as a Rhodes Scholar. He received his PhD from Harvard. He's been a writer-producer for 200 programs on public television. He's been a moderator for the Aspen Institute. He's been a boxer, a football player, a ballet dancer, a world traveler, and he has a beautiful and caring wife named Anne, who is probably the surrogate mother of everyone who went to Wofford and is now there. He's now the president of Wofford and taking it to new heights. But probably his most endearing characteristic is that he's always a student. He's always there taking care of his students, and he's been a true mentor to me. And it's my pleasure to introduce y'all to Dr. Dunlap.
Thanks, Mary Margaret. That was typically gracious and articulate. I'm just improvising here because I didn't know, first of all, that I was going to say anything to you. And secondly, because this is my first glimpse of Freedom Hall. I was one of the consultants along with two other ex-Rhodes Scholars. So I know theoretically what it's supposed to look like, but it is just spectacular. It really is extraordinary. Having said that, am I expected to make some remarks now?
The floor is open for remarks, but we do have a number of children who are hoping to come here to eat lunch, and so we're on a tight schedule. What I would suggest is if you would like to make a few remarks, great, or we could just go over to the headmaster's house and we'll have lunch and have remarks over there.
Oh, why don't we do that? Obviously, if we're keeping kids from their lunch. Nice meeting you. Thank you. Well, gosh.
I think Bernie has a special interest in the exchange students.
See the publicity that well, he said, I don't want to call it call it something else. And I actually said, well, Mr. Milliken, it is a pleasure, though, isn't
My plan is to drift around from table to table, sort of like Sarah painted the narrative in the hall. It blends in, and you sort of ignore it if you want to. And so that's what the format would be, to explain the significant action that the Board of Trustees took last night for the next phase. It always was conceived that Freedom Hall would be our preliminary phase. And we're proud of that phase. General Reynolds spoke at dedication at 9/11/2003 to have Phil Later here, a survivor of Tower 2, the brother of a victim of that tragedy, and a bystander who was so moved that he operated heavy equipment to remove the rubble. All of that was grand. But you see up front I have Exhibit 1. And the Exhibit 1 consists of questions that students asked as we broke into interactive groups to talk about what is the significance of this event. And for those who were there, you will recall that Admiral Flatledge, who was formed the Congressional Medal of Honor Museum at Patriots Point, joined us, along with Tally Parham, who was just back from Afghanistan flying combat missions and was a finalist for a Rhodes Scholar herself. And they joined us on that panel. So Exhibit 1 are the questions that were asked on 9/11/2003. And I say Exhibit 1 because to go to the board, I think there are two measures of whether a project is worthwhile. It should be measured by the school's motto of risk, exploration, and truth. Does what we're doing with Freedom Hall in this next phase, does it contribute to the understanding and pursuit of those three words and what they represent? And the second thing is, how does this impact an education? And I'm going to drift around through the meal to talk about the different ways. And Dr. Dunlap is the most remarkable person to have here today with us, because you heard Mary Margaret's introduction. And one of the things we want to talk about is not just looking at that mural or seeing the sculpture that you're going to hear about. It's going to be oratory. How does this inspire us to speak about matters that are important? Art. We're going to have contests of design of medallions, things of that sort. Theater, to be able to have a play written about the messages in Freedom Hall. And as you heard, with Dr. Dunlap being formerly in a ballet, written plays, directed plays, he is the embodiment of seeing the breadth of education. We all learn differently. Some people learn visually. Some people learn with their hands. And what we hope to do is incorporate all of the learning techniques for the sole purpose of achieving in the development of minds to enter a world and pursue risk, exploration, and truth. So before the blessing, I'll tell the joke, we'll have the blessing, and I'll sit there and
no chance for a rebuttal from me.
This is the joke. My first exposure to Bernie Dunlap, I'd heard the name. I knew from friends, children who at Wofford who had him, Mary Margaret being one of them, Dindy Engelman, who was a graduate of Pinewood, and others. But Alex Sanders and I go hunting. We go hunting once a year on a little quail hunt, and he was the president of College of Charleston, and just as a great wit. And he said, "Johnny, do you know Bernie Dunlap?" I said, "No, I've heard of him." And he said, "Let me tell you a little story about Bernie." And he, of course, it was, as you would expect, 3 hours later, and there was great stories he was still telling. The one I'll repeat is, he said, "Yeah, I had this huge box that came in at Christmas time from Bilo when I was at College of Charleston. And one of the benefits is people always send you stuff. So I'm doling it out to cheeses and gourmet foods and wines." He says, "The thing must have been as big as a couch." And I said, "John, I wonder what I've done to impress Bilo. You know, they're headquartered up in Greer, and they just sent something little last year." So at the bottom of the box, you know, at the end of the Christmas season, I finally see it. It's a note to Bernie Dunlap. They've obviously got it mixed up with Wofford. So I had the great pleasure of sending Bernie a note saying, "Dear Bernie, Bilo thinks a whole lot of you, and I sure appreciate it. I'd recommend you send them a nice thank you note."
What he didn't tell you is they sent me Alexander's box, and they sent him my box. He gave mine away. I sent his down to him.
George, who is going to? I'll do it.
Lord, we just want to thank you today for this cross-section of humanity. Today we've got Muslim, Christian, Jew, agnostic. And Lord, we thank you for each one of those people and each one of their belief systems. And Lord, we thank you for the Linton family and one of them in faraway Hong Kong, working with Watford in educational purposes. And Lord, we want to thank you for the food and bless it to our bodies. Amen.
Who are interested in something the board did last night and sort of the next phase of our Freedom Hall, I'm going to spend a few minutes to discuss it, but keep eating, keep talking, it won't bother me, and I won't be offended by it. The concept of Freedom Hall was it would be in 3 phases. The first phase you see, it's incomplete, but it's a great start. The second phase was going to be the courtyard of the world, and that was going to be right outside of Freedom Hall. But as we looked into it, that was too confining for the magnitude of this project. So Ken Gibbs and George Milner and Glenn converted that into basically a sketch that I drew up this morning following our discussion with the board last night. The Board of Trustees authorized $100,000 for this project. The school will contribute $60,000, and $40,000 has to be raised in private contributions. Fitzhenrys, Mike and Dottie, the parents of Mary Margaret and Charles, who both were involved. Mary Margaret was graduated. Without solicitation, heard about the fact that we're getting ready to start phase 2. They wrote a check for $1,000. Someone else made an anonymous gift of $20,000. And last night at the board meeting, the pledges made will exceed the $40,000. So the funding has been complete. I didn't even leave the board meeting before.
We'll still take more, Johnny.
Yes. Well, the beauty of it is that there are beneficial purposes that can be served. Scholarships for exchange students coming in, scholarships for needy students. The board will have to decide on those priorities. But this is phase 2, and if you think of Freedom Hall is here, and you know down the way, Neil, put your hand, down that way is where Ken has the walkway that I'm told is going to be covered sometime, but it will connect the whole school. And between there where the teepee was, this is going to be called something like Liberty Gardens. These names and this concept are just ideas. It'll be called Liberty Gardens, and just as we have a theme for the hall, it'll be something along the lines, but it'll be improved many times before finalized. Listen to the roars of the lions, heroes of the 20th century. And that will be world leaders that will have to first be passed on by the International Club, world leaders who contributed to peace so that we can live in the 21st century with the peace that we have, and to take full advantage of what they've done for us. These will be world leaders up and down this side. There's a status that's even more important than being a world leader, and that is an individual who, through their own intellect, commitment, certain values that they represent as a pinnacle, they will be elevated even above world leaders for the contributions that they've made to society. That'll be people like Mother Teresa, Gandhi as a private citizen, Einstein, the Dalai Lama, Nelson Mandela. These are just names of people that are being considered. No one has been approved. Ultimately, the faculty will have to pass on it, the Board of Trustees, and the board will ask the Rhodes Scholar Committee for their imprimatur to say, we think we've got it right. Ken can elaborate on it. He's got fabulous ideas of how we're going to build character traits through this whole process. Then one idea is to show how fast times are changing. When we reflect on the last 100 years, on one side we'll have clocks across the world, so you'll see what time it is in Hong Kong, in Tokyo, in Berlin, in Johannesburg, and that'll be great, the sort of a linear approach of these world leaders. On the other side will be something perhaps like how long did it take to go around the world? Start in the 20th century. Was it 40 days in a hot air balloon? Was it by ship? Then as we had flight, and then as we kept narrowing that gap, and really we go around the world now on the internet by commerce, and so it's a nanosecond. And we come down here, excuse me, jump back up here. This is going to be designed so that we can have seminars out there. So Jim Brown says, it's a good afternoon, I want to take my class out there. So there'll be benches designed at different heights for different sizes of children. Perhaps there'll be words, risk, exploration, truth, and something like this to show us this is what we're pursuing in our education out here. I'd like to see something down here. I've got this as a waterfall, but some flow of water because it's so soothing. But there could be another classroom, and whether these will be amphitheater style or something like that. Omitted from the Freedom Hall was the League of Nations, is not mentioned. As y'all may know, Woodrow Wilson was the one who tried to promote that, and it failed in America. People wanted to be isolated at the time. The United Nations, the contribution that we've made to it, the contributions that the United Nations makes now. And then this is the neatest thing about the whole project, I think. Dave and Elena Jackson, Dave's English and Elena's a Czech. They lived in Montserrat, and the volcano erupted and destroyed everything, so they moved to Charleston. They have a stone casting business. They did that stamped concrete with the world that is Freedom Hall. They're so impressed with ideas at Pinewood, they're going to donate something that they are installing in a major project. They call it a human sundial. And a child in kindergarten will be able to step on the sundial and cast the time. Or Milton will be able to step on that and cast the time. It'll be a little bit longer cast. And it'll be perhaps something that says, you are here, the 21st century, what shadow do you cast? You're looking into the 20th century and reflecting on that too. That's sort of just some of the concepts that are being discussed. They'll all be refined and evolved into many different iterations, I'm sure. One reason I've got all these books and videos and audios around is that we may consider having something like Liberty Cafe. I've got over there a sign that says open 2006, 24/7. And that would be where you have the ability to go to the library. And of course, it's not going to be open 24/7. The ability to access the great speeches that were made. Later at the end of the program, we'll play 2 minutes of General Douglas MacArthur's speech, Duty, Honor, Country, because it parallels risk, exploration, and truth. And we have a theme song to play at the very end. And when you think about it, education, now I've brought a shoebox to say you don't really need to go to college. There was a Nobel laureate, Eric Hawthorne, who was a longshoreman who didn't go to college. College is like this food. Food is nourishment to you. We eat because it's fun and it's enjoyable, but you can get all the food supplements and you don't need it. Well, that's the way college is. That's the way high school is becoming. You could have home, a lot of people do have home study, but it's to gather together and get excited about our learning process. Okay, what we're going to do is listen to 2 minutes of a speech. General Douglas MacArthur is in the hall right next to George Marshall.
As I was leaving the hotel this morning,
turn it up, please, Madame.
A doorman asked me, "Where are you bound for, General?" And when I replied West Point, he remarked, "Beautiful place. Have you ever been there before?" No human being could fail to be deeply moved by such a tribute as this. Coming from a profession I have served so long, and a people I have loved so well, it fills me with an emotion I cannot express. But this award is not intended primarily to honor a personality, but to symbolize a great moral code. The code of conduct and chivalry of those who guard this beloved land of culture and ancient descent. That is the animation of this medallion. For all eyes and for all time, it is an expression of the ethics of the American soldier. That I should be integrated in this way with so noble an ideal arouses a sense of pride and yet of humility, which will be with me always. Duty, honor, country. Those three hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be. They are your rallying points to build courage when courage seems to fail, to regain faith when there seems to be little cause for faith, to create hope when hope becomes forlorn.
Think of the parallel between General MacArthur and our motto: risk, exploration, and truth. General MacArthur, as most people know, was later fired by President Truman. And that speech is about 30 minutes long. I probably listened to it 50 times. The next speech he was given to session of Congress. I'd like for everybody at Pinewood, as part of their education, to listen to those. Not only for the values, but to teach people how to speak and to write and to dream. We have a theme song today, if you'll change that at the very end, so the talking will be over. Bernie is going to have some remarks. I know we're running on a tight schedule, but we're doing our best.
Well, we were late, so we owe you something.
Okay, this is a little gift from Pinewood, and I thought it was reflective of what we're trying to accomplish by calling upon every method of learning to inspire people. Dr. Benjamin Dunlap, a reminder that what you see does not depend on where you sit. And you can pull it out if you wish.
I don't know if I should eat it here or take
You
it
can
with
eat it if we're tough on this one.
Oh, isn't that marvelous? Oh, it's the Owl of Minerva, clearly. The search for wisdom being what we are all in pursuit of. Wow, thank you so much. And let me just say, commenting on the Duty, Honor, Country speech, you may not know that those three words are the motto of the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. And I noticed that your motto is also in Latin as well as English, and two of the words are periculum and exploratum. What is the third in Latin? Risk, exploration, truth. What is truth in Latin? Ah, you pronounce it with a V, veritas. Do you have Latin here at the Academy? Anyone taking Latin? When Caesar arrived and conquered, what did he say? How? Did you say Veni, Vidi, Vici? You said Veni, didn't you? All right, then why don't you say Veritas? I'll tell you why. Because the Christian church didn't talk a whole lot, except in Onward Christian Soldiers and things like that, about arriving and conquering. It talked a lot about truth, and it is ecclesiastical Latin that pronounces the V as veritas. And in fact, I would urge you to pronounce your motto veritas precisely because Pinewood is founded on such a universal recognition that there is truth in all cultures, in all traditions. And the search for wisdom is not a narrow search, it is a capacious one. That is open as widely as the ideas underlying the vision that you've been taking from table to table today, Johnny. I might tell you that I conducted a seminar some years ago, and in the seminar was a man named Ron Spires, who at that time was Undersecretary of State, in charge of all of the ambassadors sent out by the United States. And he had grown up in Princeton, New Jersey, where his family was Swedenborgians, which is pretty unusual. Sometime you might want to look into the Swedenborgians, but Ron remembered as an undergraduate, on a rainy day, much like today, he decided that he would take an exam break and he would go to see a movie, and it happened to be a frothy MGM musical starring someone named Mitzi Gaynor, that you've probably never heard of, but she played the sort of the Daffy Blonde. And in the course of the movie, Ron Spires, sitting almost alone in this theater at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, someone asked a question of Mitzi Gaynor, and she replied in her daffy fashion, "How should I know? Who do you think I am, Einstein?" And Ron heard behind him someone going, eh, 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 eh. And he looked around, and there was the electric hairdo, the unmistakable presence of Albert Einstein. Who do you think I am, Einstein? And that puckish humor, the fact that he found it so amusing, reminds us that even the greatest minds maintain a sense of humor. That's a part of wisdom. I want to tell you, too, that Wofford College, like Pinewood, emphasizes global studies. We rank among the top 5 institutions in the nation, among all colleges and universities, in the percentage of students who travel and study abroad. I took a group of students on several occasions to India. And on one occasion, when we were in New Delhi, I met a Mr. Singh. In fact, when in New Delhi, one always meets a Mr. Singh. It's a very common name. But this Mr. Singh, himself a Sikh, had been quite fascinated by Mother Teresa. And he had decided to make a sort of pilgrimage all the way from New Delhi to Calcutta, which is about like traveling from Pinewood to Los Angeles. And when he got to Calcutta, he went to the compound of Mother Teresa, and he rang the bell at the gate. And this testy little nun came to the door and said, "Yes, what is it?" And he said, "My name is Mr. Singh. I have come all across India in order to meet Mother Teresa. I greatly admire her work. And the nun said, she's very busy. And he said, yes, but please, I will wait. She said, very well. And she let him enter, led him to a waiting room, gave him a seat. And as she was leaving the room, he said, oh, just one thing else. How long will I have to wait? And she said, about 20 minutes. And he said, all right. And he sat there for 20 minutes, and 30 minutes, and 40 minutes, and finally, nearly an hour had passed, and all the time he'd seen the testy little nun bustling up and down the corridors, and finally he could stand it no longer, and he said, please, as she was passing again, after about an hour, please, you said I would only have to wait 20 minutes before seeing Mother Teresa. When am I going to see Mother Teresa? And she replied, I'm Mother Teresa, what do you want? And in that moment, he understood that for 60 minutes he had sat there doing absolutely nothing. And all the time, she had been bustling up and down the corridors on errands of mercy and compassion, helping those in need. And he had the immense good grace to say to her, nothing. I have what I came for. And the message, of course, was, it is always now. It is always time to act on that wisdom that you are studying and learning here at Pinewood. I feel an affinity with what you're undertaking. I think Pinewood and Walford have much in common. We have Johnny Linton in common, and we have some people here in common. I applaud what you're doing, and I think your plans are truly visionary. And I will put this in a place where I can remind myself every day of our common search. Thank you for this lovely occasion.
You can understand why I wasn't concerned whether I had given him a subject matter to talk about. One person can make a difference. Jack Tate delivered a commencement address 6 years ago. And English Mitchell, older brother, was in the first grade. And Norman and Deanna were not satisfied with the public school. And Norman came over and was talking to me about it. And I said, you know, Norman, we don't have very many black children at Pinewood. I wish we did, and others do as well. I want to show you, give you this tape. It represents the best at Pinewood. It was a commencement. It's done very elegantly, Bernie. And so that was 9:15 at night. At about 6:30 the next morning, Norman knocking on my door. He said, I've got an appointment at 8 o'clock. Here's your tape. I said, where's your appointment? He said, Pinewood. My children are going there. That morning, he put them there. And English was, English, I guess you were just about two years old. How old are you now? 9. So she was 2 or 3 years old. Ashton was in the first grade. So Jack Tate speaking and us having that on video, Norman had his children here. Now we have many blacks, as George mentioned. We have people from all over the world. We also have a diversity initiative to make sure that we build on that tradition. And I think that's the thing I'm most proud of anything at Pinewood. English, I want you to have your picture taken with Dr. Dunlap. Right now, you come on over here, sweetie. Just the two of y'all. You pretend I'm getting you a banana split, and let's do a little smile. We'll clap for you if you'll smile. Come on, English, smile, English.
I'm sorry to do this to you.
Getcha.
You got it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mary, I hope we don't put you late for another appointment.
This was great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
This is a theme song from Mel Machas, The Impossible Dream.